Well, hello again, and welcome to another edition of Derp Your Hooves. Today we are going to do a livery tutorial part 2, and sorry about my desktop, it's a little messy. Been kind of doing some liveries, really haven't cleaned it up, and just good computer housekeeping. You shouldn't really let your desktop get too dirtied up. But so I want to kind of go over here, and I wanted to cover um, some of the files and what they do when you're creating a livery. And I know, again, I'll include the path to your community folder. We're not really going to have to go there today. I mean, we will somewhere towards the end, but I wanted to show you. So today, I actually have this update SkyMasters folder because we're going to be using the Cesta SkyMaster, and I already have it kind of organized for a workspace. So I have my current version here, which is the most up to date, and I only have one that I'm starting with. There's nothing updated, of course. We have it in original, which is going to be this gold pony. Now this folder here, it says gold pony, would actually be the folder that I copied out of my community folder, or that you would download from the internet and that you would drop into your community folder. And this is actually one of my first files here. And so when I double click that, you see that inside the original livery gold pony, we have a content info, a sim object, a layout, and a manifest. Now, the folders are important, but these files here, right here where it says the JSON source file, they're pretty important. Now, these files themselves here, if I click layout, shows me a path and a path to the images, path to the texture folder, a little bit of computery stuff. You know, we all, have to know a little bit about paths. I mean, some of us just kind of double click folders, but every time you double click a folder, it shows you the path right there in your path bar. So, like for example, the path right here is sim objects. Airplanes is another folder. The Carenado 337 Gold Pony is another folder. The texture.gold is another folder. And they're all subfolders of a larger folder. That's kind of how the Windows file structure works. Ever since the DOS days, it goes from a root kind of out. We're not really going to talk about computer theory here. We're going to talk about how these files work. So without this file here, I can make all of the nice liveries and make the aircraft look great and wonderful. And when I drop the file or the folder for the livery into the community folder and I fire it up, if things are wrong, it won't work. I can get the pink checkerboard, which some people have seen, or you just get, files aren't showing up, and that could be because your naming convention is off, or it could be because the path is off in the naming convention. Sometimes it can be the file size of the date, but we're kind of going by the factory file sizes here. I'm not creating a brand new plane. I'm actually altering the liveries that are here and making one out of the factory livery, which we've already done. But these files here are like a script. They're like a reference file, so you need them, and they need to be right. And there's a format and a file and a layout, and we could go into programming and why things are laid out the way they are. It really doesn't take a genius to figure this out, and it really doesn't take really a programmer to figure this out. You can learn these paths and how they work, and you can actually kind of study some of the files and see how it works, but it's important that these files are done right. So you have to have your layout file for a livery. You have to have a manifest file, username or the creator of the file, the title of the file, the version, what kind of content it is, the total package size. That's pretty important too. And as you go through, you have these two folders here that say sim objects and content info. Now, content info here has a folder and a thumbnail, and some liveries are laid out like this. And I'm sorry, I have my computer to set up to open Windows on my tablet, which is the next monitor, which we're not seeing. So, there's the basic thumbnail there, and I'm pretty sure that every time I open a folder, it's going to go down my tablet, so I'm going to have to drag it up for you. So in content info is the basic thumbnail for some of these. And then here in sim objects, airplanes, and this was the path that we were looking at as it builds. We have a model folder that actually has it has a configuration file, and this has to be here in some of the liveries, and this tells us the default path in case the default path to the here we're using an HTML file, but it's got the default path to the to the XML file for the paint, and for the interior it's got the model file, which is the Coronado basic paths, and it has the model options. Here you go, we have true and showing the exterior, also show the interior model. So I really haven't messed with most of this stuff here, but I know that this is also very important, and this has to be in the right order and format. So we have those, and you could see actually again if I click here on top, because we can show you an example of the path. So we have this, don't worry about that. But we have Livery Coronado, original Livery Coronado, Gold Pony, Sim Objects, Airplanes, Coronado 337 model, and then our configuration file. And of course the C users username, stuff like that, which you need to have. But so it shows the path. Now, if I'm going here into the texture folder, and I've named these texture folders, you have model dot with the folder name, and this is the format to do it in. This is just what I call it for my reference for gold. And you'll see that if I go to, let's go back and let's open up a previous window so I can kind of, hopefully you can kind of understand this. I wasn't really taught how to do this. I've learned it on my own, and hopefully you can learn from some of this. If you're having questions, hopefully I can answer some of them for you. So that's the directory that we were in. We're going all the way here, and there's an aircraft configuration file, and I'm going to show you that in a second. And there was our layout file. Now our layout file, that's why I wanted to get here, is you have a model folder and a texture folder in an aircraft file. Now if I go back to layout and I click on this, and I'm using Visual Studio Code, I prefer this as my text editor. You can use what you like. I would use something besides Notepad. I would use like Notepad++. You can download all this from the internet. Sometimes there's an issues there was with other flight sims and other programs where you can write code in Notepad and it just wouldn't work with certain programs. So Visual Studio Code, it's a great program to use. It also has some error checking. So and you might say to yourself, well, this is really advanced, and it's not really, because I wanted to show you this. I keep meandering off the point. Sorry, squirrel, there it is. So I'm seeing here's the layout, there's the layout file, there's the path. And again, here's a path. And so if we're in the model folder, here's the path to the model folder, and this is Gold Pony is the other folder, and then we have our model and texture.gld. Maybe this will make some sense to you. So I'm looking here, and let's say I want the let's see, decals folder. There's plain decals for this particular model, and here's the path. So it's sim objects, airplanes, the subfolder, and texture.gld. So obviously in texture.gld, where's the decals? In texture.gld, there's a decals2.conf, and a decals2 albd.png.dds, which is a JSON configuration file. So you have an image file, a configuration file, and then you have a comp file, a shader file. It provides a mask for the light. That's the best way to describe it. And they're automatically in the liveries when you buy them or when the manufacturers design the aircraft. But if you want to use your own, it's great to use all three. So the actual image file, the shader file, or the image file, sorry, the reference file, and the shader file. And I'll show you these right here. If we go into texture, GLD, and I have decals. So here they are, decals2, JSON source file, which is just, if I double click it, it's going to show up down here. And it's just telling you the file date, the compression, has transparency true. We can close that out. That's what that file looks like. But we have an image file and then a decals comp file. And if I open them up and I go to, say, large icons, or we're on the internet, so let's say extra large icons. So you can see it on the small screen on YouTube. So here's your decals image file, which is a transparent PNG, which I've also changed with GIMP. And I'll show you that in a second too, because it actually has to be in a .dds format. It has to have this cascading thumbnails. Lots of information, but as long as you have these three files, this DDS file and this DDS comp file and your JSON file, and everything here makes sense, then your decals will show up just fine on the aircraft and you won't get a pink checkerboard. And again, all of this stuff, so that it has a decals comp too. Sorry, there's actually two files. There's this and the shader file, which are image files, and then a reference file for each image file. My bad. And then some of them even have like a metallic, so some of them have several files. But we're doing this because I had covered this in the previous lesson about the decals on the tail of the F-104. That you were seeing that the shield on the back, the Air Force shield, was kind of fading out with the sunlight, and it wasn't how it would look on the real plane, and it was kind of transparent. When the light hit it, it would disappear. Where in real life, that actual Air Force shield, the organizational shield on the back of the tail, and you can always go back and look at that livery to see what I'm talking about. When the light hits, it would be more solid. And that's where this comp file comes in. It's kind of like a shader file where when the light in the game, the artificial sun, hits the texture of the plane, these decals will, this has got pink, so these here will be like a chrome transparent. These here in like the red and the yellow will be more solid. The red will be a little bit more shiny, but not as shiny as the chrome. And so they all kind of work together, these four files, or these two files and these two files, to give you that solid texture that you're looking for, the texture effect that you're looking for. So again, all of these files here, and it's important to have a thumbnail too, but all of these files here are pretty much required so that you can go ahead and you can get to the actual image file on the aircraft. And in this aircraft, I'm going to kind of explain this. I didn't do much. I just kind of did the outside. So this is the outside of the fuselage with its comp or shader file. The decals that go on the outside of it with, again, a comp and a shader file. Because this is using a like an HTML or a CSX or an XML file for the paint. These are our paint colors, and I'm not even going to bother changing the coding on that. But we're just going to use their default model, and it's going to splatter this paint exactly how that file has it. So it's going to have the gold trim on it that looks like that. It's going to have this kind of really light purple, hot pink, like a lavender color to make these gold. And then, of course, it has these files here, and there's a texture reference file, and I can click on that. But these files here were the basics that it needed to go ahead and give you basically what you're seeing here, this gold image with the decals. I mean, I don't even have to launch the sim to show you, because this is what it looks like. So it has this metallic gold image here with the white paint, and that's the XML. So you're actually looking at all of these files together working. Now, on this being more of a basic file, and this aircraft versus the one that we're going to upgrade the style to, there's stuff that I had changed and certain pieces that weren't here. So actually what I can do is I'm going to go ahead and just show you the example of what it looks like. Okay, so here we are, and we're looking at this gold pony that I have here in my livery section, and I have plenty of liveries, and I'm going to get there in a minute. But so we have this, and we're just kind of using the outside of it. And you're seeing it right here. This is what I'm talking about. So I've pretty much just done the outside of the aircraft, and don't worry about the two default Coronado guys popping in and popping out. No offense, I kind of think of it as an improvement. I've been trying to figure out a way to get them out of the cockpit for a while, and we will figure that out. But anyhow, so I'm sorry even to the guys at Coronado. I just, really wish that they would give us a choice of, some other people here. So anyhow, here we have this metallic texture. Now this was the kind of lavender in the comp file with that kind of gold that I put underneath it. Without the lavender, you wouldn't get this reflective chrome on the gold. Now again, this was just a really simple livery, and you're seeing that there's the 337 decals. Those are also got the nice little kind of gold chrome, and with some of the red in the comp file, you get that shiny white right there on the aircraft itself. And we want to go in. So if I zoom in, here's the inside of the cockpit. Now, I haven't touched this. This is all just default Coronado livery on the inside. So there's nothing that has been changed about this whatsoever. And when I load my livery, and I can show you one of their factory liveries, it just shows up like this. We go to the outside, back to the inside, go to the default view. So you're just seeing that all this is here, and there's the Coronado tablet and all this, and you can't really play with the controls when you're in here, but this is just the default Coronado livery. So we're going to go back. We're going to go choose the livery that I want to update it to. Actually, let's choose a default Coronado livery. So the livery that we're using is this, more or less. We're using the Coronado files, and this is their little XML. And so the gold pony is basically based on this variation. And, I just used gold, and I made my textures metallic and reflective. And if I go into it, you see that I have the same default factory Coronado interior in the gold as I do in their default factory one. Now, so that was an example of the files that were in there and how it looks. But I want to update this to something a little more recent. And you see also with the two default pilots, and someone had mentioned this to me. You know, when you zoom in on the factory liveries, they don't go away. Well, with our livery files, we're not making huge fat livery files that you know, clog up your hard drive. We're trying to do the minimum here, so that you're not going to have a gigantic folder and a gigantic community folder as you add stuff to your hard drive to say, I mean, it's a beautiful livery, but, you know, maybe I just don't want blue. I want gold, I want pink, I want orange, I want whatever. So, or maybe I want to use one of the other liveries. So, I'm actually using this for the gold. And if I go through their factory liveries, I am using this version for our updated blue chrome. And you can see here that this is just the default kind of olive drab. And again, the interior right here is a default Coronado interior, but the actual paint style is different. And you can look on the outside, it's different. And you can actually paint directly on the texture file. You don't have to add an extra CSX or XML paint file. If you've ever done some web design, you know what I'm talking about. But you don't have to add that. It's just how they choose to do it. It's a really nifty option, and we're going to take advantage of that to go ahead and use our liveries. And you can see the whole paint scheme is different. And I'll show you. I'll try to explain to you what I mean here, because I showed you kind of the gold color swatches. Well, it just uses a CSS file that they have hidden to give us this paint effect for 4 different aircrafts. And there's a reference for it and everything. But so we're going to turn our blue into a gold because I just want to do it. We're going to go back to liveries, and I'm going to show you what the blue looks like. So here's the blue chrome pony. And you see that it's nice, and it's blue, and it's chrome, and it's using the second livery, and it doesn't look like the gold. But there's a couple other things that I've done. I've added some de-icer boots. And this actually has a lot more files than the gold. So we're going to have to upgrade it and add things and edit things. And we're going to do it a very simple, fast way so it doesn't take hours and hours and hours and hours to do this. And if I take a tour around the outside of the aircraft manually, you see again, it's nice and chromed. And I'm just doing this now because you're going to see the files. So it's nice and chromed, and it's got blue, and it's got some different textures. It's got that metallic texture, that metallic shiny texture. It's got a flat texture for the de-icer boots. And then it's kind of got that glossy, fresh aircraft white paint on it. So there's actually a lot going on here, but it's all just making sure your files and everything are in the right place, because we also want to add not just the de-icer boots today, but, well, there's my logo on the dash. And look, we have a designer logo, and we changed the Coronado tablet design. I mean, so there's things that you can do with a little bit of time and the right art file programs, and like Clip Studio Paint. Again, I know you can do all this through Photoshop. I haven't used Photoshop in several years. I've used workarounds, and I use GIMP and Clip Studio Paint to go ahead and make all of this work. Takes a little bit longer maybe, but at the same time I produce the same results at a fraction of the cost. And although I am open for commissions, and I will refuse some, some of this stuff I just do because I enjoy it, and I do it because it's free. And, again, I'm not going to pay for Photoshop if I'm doing this for free as a hobby. Sorry, guys over at Adobe. I love your products, but your prices are outrageous. If you could bring them back down so the average person can afford them, that would be kind of nice. So anyways, you're seeing here we go. I mean, this cockpit looks different than the factory cockpit, and that's because there's more files. So we're going to go ahead and quit out of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and we are going to show you this Blue Pony file and how different it is and how we're going to change it over. Okay, everybody, so here we are. And we've quit Microsoft Flight Simulator, and we've seen the examples of how we're going to turn the gold pony into the blue pony. But the fact is, I was talking about there's very little exterior files here in the actual gold pony. And if I go back, and I go back to my folder where I'm storing all of this, and I go to the blue chrome pony, which I want to change everything to, you can even see it here, and we have to be very careful with our layouts. Here's the layout for gold pony. It has, let's see, let's drag it up, drag it down a little bit. So we're at line 57 here. And if I go all the way to the bottom, it has about 129 lines from start to finish of code. And again, it's just path name with the files, the size, the date, the separator, the next file, which is the reference file, and the comp file. So, here you go, your 3 files. And again, it is 3 files. So, 2 for each. Well, it's actually 4 for each. Sorry, I really shouldn't confuse you. You can use 3 on some aircraft when you're not going to use a shader file, or the shader file doesn't have the image burned into it. So it's, 4 files is a good practice. A little bit of a fatter, heavier livery file, but a little more comprehensive. So you have your main texture file, its reference, the shader file, whatever you want to call it, the comp file, it's a shader file with its descriptor, and you need these 2 files. So you need these 4 files to work. You need this one to work with this one. If you don't have this layout file, that might not work at all. So you need these 2 at a minimum, and if you want to, not have weird ghosting textures that you might get from a previous livery or whatever, things fading out, you want your comp file. So you really need these 4 files per texture. So again, getting a little more basic again, this is the gold, and the gold just has some exterior stuff, no interior. And I showed you it only has like the wings, or it only has the fuselage sitting there because, I don't need all of these extra files. But when we get to the layout file for the blue pony, there's quite a difference. I mean, here's the gold pony, and you can even look in the preview. Gold pony only has so many files it needs. Blue pony has a lot more. And if you actually look at the actual files that the developers show you, they have, sorry, that if I was to open up one of those, which I'm not going to do right now, those can be very long because it has every single file for the aircraft in it. But so gold pony again, what we're updating, not a whole lot here, but enough to cover the outside of the aircraft the way I need it. And the blue pony, which has a lot more, has, again, here you go. It has a, it has a main texture fuselage file with a shader. It has, I believe these are the wings with its shader file. And as we go down, it has its descriptor reference here for the thumbnail, which is in a separate folder. So all of this has to be here, and the naming convention, again, has to be right. And this is something we're going to change to make a totally brand new livery. To basically make the blue look like gold, but I want to keep the blue too. So I have to call everything something different. And as I'm going down here, and I know I have a PSD file in here, I just don't want to get rid of it. It doesn't really matter. I mean, just leave it alone. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes you could have some garbage files in here and they just don't matter. But I probably could get rid of it, but not for this demonstration. So basically every file I have in here has a functionality. And it all serves a purpose in one form or the other. And again, I'm not using Photoshop. I can totally get rid of that PSD file. It'll still work. I just don't want to do heavy editing today. And have to go back and, even I make sometimes huge mistakes during naming conventions. I can just, trust me, if you spell something the wrong way or you put a period or a comma instead of a period or something and you don't catch it, and the text editing software here, like Visual Studio Code, doesn't catch it or you ignore it, you end up not seeing files, you end up with your pink checkerboard. But so all of these here, they're all in reference to so what we're going to do here is I'm just going to collapse these windows because I have my two files. And I'm saying, well, I want to update it, but I don't want to punch all this stuff in because I've already written all this. Write it again by hand? I mean, what is this, like standards in class? No, it's not. So we're going to go to New Window. And in Visual Studio Code, that's going to give me a brand new window. And I guess I'm overloading the RAM of the machine today. And we're going to go here. We're going to take Gold Pony. And we're going to drop it in the new window. Just like that. And I don't need to get started. I already know. We're going to take Gold Pony out of here. And I'm just doing this for my own reference. We're going to get rid of it. So we've gotten rid of it. But we just moved it over a window, and I'm doing this so that I don't accidentally rewrite the wrong folder. And I have backups. I strongly recommend, if you're going to start renaming things, you're going to start doing art files, make master copies. Especially if you're going to start editing some of the factory liveries, always make sure you make a backup. Put the backup in a safe place. Make a copy of the backup, work with the copy of the backup, and never touch the original. Just in case you mess something up, you can always drag and drop the original back. And you're not like, oh man, I just ruined my favorite plane, in this simulator, and, I don't know what I did wrong. And, well, I mean, at least you have a backup so you can drop it back in. So, let's go ahead and let's go over this. So, we're going to basically take the Gold Pony, and we're going to turn the Gold Pony to have the same basic stuff here as the Blue Pony, and we're going to change the paint scheme. So how would we do that? So, well, there's a million ways to do it. Like I said, we can do it manually, but let's do it the easy way. So, I know that I want it to look like the blue, but I want it to be in gold, and I already have all of these files here. So it's really just a matter of changing the naming convention and calling it something else. So I can do that really easy. I showed you earlier up here that I have update SkyMasters, or undate. See, there's that spelling problem again. So we're going to call it undate so you can easily, make a mistake there. And I have updated. So I have the original, which is the Gold Pony. I have my blue Chrome Pony that I'm working with, and I have updated. So, I have my file factory and my image factory in case I want to do that. So here's what I'm going to do. Really complicated. You can do it any way you want to do it. We're going to do it kind of like this. So we're going to take the updated folder is empty. So I'm going to basically, just go ahead and copy this. And in the original, I'm going to paste it because I don't want it. You'll see what's going to happen. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through here and change it to Blue Chrome Pony 2. But I don't want it to be Blue Chrome Pony. I would actually like to call it Gold Chrome Pony 2. So now that I actually have this renamed as Gold Chrome Pony, I can take it, I can cut it, I could bring it to say I'm going to use this folder as a workspace, paste it, and so I didn't copy it, I just moved it. So I have this and this. Now, Blue Chrome Pony and Gold Chrome Pony are basically the same, except for there's just a little bit of a naming difference here. It says Gold Chrome instead of Blue Chrome. So I can actually go in here and I can say Content Info. Instead of Blue Sea Pony, let's call it, say, Gold Chrome Pony 2. Not 3. And we're going to have to change out the thumbnail, but so we change that file name. And we're going to go to Sim Objects and Airplanes and Blue Sea Pony. No. Gold 2. Let's make sure the caps lock key is on. Gold 2. Sea Pony is going to be the name of that new folder. And no. C GLD 2. And you can always just copy and paste it, but we're just going to go C GLD 2. So again, like I'm saying, pay attention to what you're doing. So I just rename these folders here. Gold, Gold, C Gold 2, C Gold 2. So I have my folders named properly. But if I go here, because I'm just changing the file and I go back to layout, it's going to be the same layout. And I can show you that. I double click on it. And there's Gold Pony, Gold Chrome Pony. See, it says Blue Sea Pony. Well, see, that's not right. It doesn't say Gold Pony. So none of these files and textures match. And if I were to just take the livery like this and drag and drop it in, I would have an absolute pink mess disaster. So we're going to close Gold Chrome Pony 2. And I really don't need this Gold Pony example anymore because I was just using that to show you. So what I could do is I can just go to Layout, open it, and now it says Blue Sea Pony 2, but it says Gold Chrome Pony 2 in the description. And down here it says Blue Chrome Pony, so that's the one that's updated, and this is the layout file that we're working on. Well, again, we were talking about how this naming convention has to be right. So how am I going to fix that? Well, I'm going to fix it really easy, actually. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go in here and make sure I'm in Gold Chrome Pony 2. And I'm going to say, well, what is the content info called folder called? Ooh, stumbling all over myself today. I would not make a good actor because I would have to do that blah, blah, cookies, schnookies, candles, wandles, you know, the mouth exercises. So I'm just going to copy that file name where I'm keeping the thumbnail. So I'm going to go over here and find it, and I know where it is roughly if I scroll up to it because I wrote this thing. And content info, here we go, blue pony thumbnail. So no, so I just want to take it and highlight it, just like that. And then I want to take my mouse, and I was right-clicking it, and I want to paste it. Now the path is right. And I can tell that before I make any changes or save any changes because I'm looking at my path here. Gold Chrome Pony 2, Content Info, Carenado C37, Skymaster, Gold Pony 2. That looks right. This is the old path, and that's not going to work. So for this one file here, for our content info file, it has to say that, and that's going to be right just for this file, and that's fine. So now we still have to go back here as we're updating our layout, basically our aircraft layout folder file. We need to go in and we need to find the texture files. And I know that they're called model.clgd. Oh, how am I going to remember that? Well, I'm actually just going to, again, just copy the file name. And I'm going to go in here, and I know that I'm in the right window and not the wrong window because it says Gold Chrome Pony 2. Oh, you guys are going to be laughing at this one. And I'm leaving the blue Sky Master Chrome like that. And I'm seeing here, okay, all this doesn't really matter, but here's the folder name. And throughout the entire livery, except for, I think it's like 2 lines, it basically says .cblue, .cblue, .cdblue, .cblue. So it doesn't really matter where I do it because I know it's all over here. So again, this is a naming convention. I'm going to highlight it. And I'm using I'm using the left mouse button to highlight it. And once I highlight it, I then click it with the right mouse button, so it's a right click. And it brings me up, change all occurrences, cut, copy, paste. So change all occurrences. Again, I go ahead and right click it. And I've already copied it, so change all occurrences from C blue to what I wanted to paste in there, Gold 2. And there it is, and you can see that it did it everywhere it said C blue in this file. It now says .gold 2. Well, that's great because, this way I don't have to sit here and I don't have to go back and type everything in manually like I did the first time. So we change that, but again, we're still seeing Blue Sea Pony. And we're seeing Blue Sea Pony because we only changed this directory, because we gave that directory a different name. But if we have .gld2, which is in here, then what's the subfolder called? Well, it's really simple. You just go back. Because here again, you have your path. Airplanes, Gold C2 Pony. So that's what this path is called, and I copy it. And I know that because I go forward, it says Gold Pony, and then I have my model file, my texture file, and the model file I'm going to get into in a second. But see, now I have all my art files, and they're all here in Gold 2. And that is the subdirectory that we want to change. With my cats having WrestleMania in the background, that would be what those background noises are. And in case you hear a very weird thunk, we've all gotten used to it around here. It is the victory thunk of the other cat that sits there and wins the wrestling match every single time. So I've already gone ahead here and I've highlighted the file that I want to change by right-clicking and left-clicking. And we copied the subdirectory. So we're going to go over. Again, we're going to sit here. We're going to highlight it. And we've copied our subdirectory we're going to change it to. And we're going to go here and we're going to go ahead and we are going to right click, change all occurrences. Again, it highlights all the files, the name that we want to change it to, and we're going to paste, and it changes it throughout the entire layout file. Just simple. We don't have to retype everything by hand. We just change the path that way. And remember, this is just a layout file, and it's a reference file. Without this file being named right, your whole livery is not going to work. You're going to have pink checkerboards. You're going to have missing textures. Maybe it won't even load. So your naming conventions in these layout files, again, has to be perfect, spot on, spelt right. And I'm going to save it as. I like to save it as, and it says we're saving it to the right thing. Yep, that's what we're saving it as, and there we go. So it's going to go ahead and it's going to save it. And the file is saved, and we now have our new layout file ready to go. And what I'm going to do here after I've made these changes to the layout file, I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the texture files in part 2. So let's just go ahead and get ready to close these layout files. I'm just going to double check them before I close them so I don't have to save it again. Just double checking, triple checking my work to make sure everything looks right. Again, I have my original Blue Sea Pony here, and I'm just going to close that out because I don't need to change that. I'm just changing this one, which we now changed to Gold Chrome Pony. And now that I have it, looks good. I think I'm just going to close it out. Yeah, double check it. Always double check it. Yep, looks good. Let's close it out. So I just want to apologize here, and don't worry about what's going on in the background in the video. This is going to be the end of part 1. I had some serious technical issues. The mic went out. Just some really weird stuff. So hopefully it wasn't too confusing. I did try and put some stuff in there to kind of get you up to speed to where we were when we had to cut in. But right now, this is where we're going to leave off on part 1. We were changing the layout file, changing the naming conventions. Again, naming conventions have to be perfect. Things have to be spelled right. We're going to have a little bit more art stuff in the next one. This one we went through and, I kind of showed you what the different liveries look like. Sorry about the goof with the 3 files instead of the 2 files. I hope I've clarified that, and I will cover them possibly in some future lessons outside of these 2 lessons, and just focus on what some of the different files do and what the difference between a comp file and an image file is, and maybe even go into what the different colors do for the comp files, stuff like that. Anyhow, again, end of part 1. It's almost been about an hour. We're going to go into part 2 next. And just, I hope that this helps some of you. And, hopefully, part 2 goes a little smoother than part 1. Before you go, if you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe.